Rain slammed against the tinted windows of the limousine as Ethan Cole tightened his cufflinks, staring blankly at his reflection in the glass. The wedding was only a few hours away, and yet his chest felt heavy, not with excitement, but something else he couldn't name. Outside, reporters lined the gated entrance of the luxury hotel, shouting questions about the billionaire tech prodigy finally settling down. Inside, Ethan sat in silence, forcing a smile for his driver before stepping out. He walked through the lobby, sleek in his custom grey suit, every movement precise and measured, the way people expected from the man who built Coal Dynamics from nothing. But inside, he felt off. Vanessa hadn't returned his calls since morning. She claimed she was busy with last-minute arrangements, but Ethan knew something was wrong. Still, he brushed it off. Doubt had no place today. As he entered his private suite, his best man, Ryan, greeted him with a grin. "There he is, the man of the hour." "Nervous?" Ethan chuckled, loosening his tie. "Nervous isn't the word, just tired. Been a long week." Ryan poured them both a drink. "That's love, buddy. Once you say I do, life slows down. You deserve it." Ethan accepted the glass, but his eyes studied Ryan. They'd been friends since college, built their first startup together, and trusted each other with everything. Yet something about Ryan's tone felt off. Too smooth, too rehearsed. Vanessa entered his mind again. Her laughter, her smile, her insistence on signing the marriage contract without prenuptial terms. At first, it flattered him. "You think I need your money, Ethan?" she'd said, her voice trembling with false hurt. "I'm marrying you, not your bank account." He'd believed her. Every word. But lately, her affection had cooled. She was distant, distracted, always texting, always stepping out of calls when he entered the room. Ryan clapped him on the shoulder, jolting him back to the present. "Come on, man! Let's toast to the last few hours of bachelor freedom." They laughed, clinked glasses, and Ethan tried to shake off the unease clawing at his stomach. Later that evening, after Ryan left to check on the decorations, Ethan decided to go see Vanessa. He wanted to surprise her, maybe lighten her nerves. He grabbed a small velvet box from the table, a diamond bracelet engraved with her initials. The elevator hummed softly as it carried him to the top floor where the bridal suite was. The hallway was quiet, just the hum of air conditioning and distant thunder. Ethan smiled, imagining her reaction when he'd walk in with the bracelet. But as he reached her door, he heard voices. At first, he thought she was talking to a wedding planner, but then laughter. A man's voice. Familiar. He froze. "He's too easy to fool," Vanessa's voice said, soft but sharp, slicing through the silence. "Once we sign those papers, the shares are mine. Then we disappear." Ethan's blood ran cold. Ryan's voice followed, smug and confident. "He won't suspect a thing. He's blinded by you. After the honeymoon, we'll transfer the assets. I've already lined up the offshore accounts." Vanessa giggled. "I told you, Ryan, I have him wrapped around my finger. He trusts me completely." Ethan stepped back, breath shaking. The gift box slipped from his hand, hitting the carpet with a dull thud. Inside the suite, Vanessa's tone turned wicked. "By the time he realizes what happened, we'll be long gone. Can you imagine his face?" Ryan laughed. "The billionaire groom outsmarted by his bride and best friend. That'll be a story for the ages." Ethan's heart pounded so hard he could hear it. For a moment he couldn't breathe. His mind flooded with every memory. Their first date, the night she told him she loved him, the plans they made for the future. All lies. He wanted to burst in, to confront them, but something held him back. Pride, pain, disbelief. Instead, he turned and walked away, every step heavier than the last. The elevator doors closed and he leaned against the wall, trying to steady his breath. His hands trembled. He pressed his palms to his face, fighting back the storm building inside him. In that quiet steel box, Ethan Cole, the man who could buy anything, felt utterly powerless. When he returned to his suite, the world felt different, colder, quieter. The city lights below blurred through the rain as he poured himself another drink. He wanted to call her, to demand an explanation, but what good would it do? He'd heard everything. Then something inside him hardened. Slowly, deliberately, he pulled out his phone and called his attorney. "Michael, I need you to check something for me," he said, his tone flat. "Vanessa Hart, look into her bank accounts, phone records, everything. And don't tell anyone." The lawyer hesitated. "Sir, is everything okay?" Ethan stared out the window, eyes blank. "Not yet. By morning, the reports came in. Offshore transfers, fake companies, Ryan's name tied to 2 of them. It wasn't just betrayal, it was theft, plotted months in advance. Ethan didn't sleep. He sat by the window all night, the city buzzing below him, his heart turning to stone. By dawn, he knew exactly what he was going to do. He wasn't going to cancel the wedding. He was going to attend it and make sure everyone knew the truth. The morning of the ceremony, the hotel buzzed with energy. Guests filled the lobby, reporters fought for photos, and everything gleamed with money and perfection. Vanessa floated through it all like a queen, smiling at cameras, playing her part flawlessly. "Where's Ethan?" someone asked. "He'll be here soon," she said sweetly, hiding her nerves behind a mask of charm she had no idea he already knew. Upstairs, Ethan dressed in silence. His reflection looked calm, but his eyes burned with quiet fire. Every movement was deliberate, adjusting his tie, fixing his cufflinks, slipping on the ring that was meant for her. When Ryan entered the room, pretending casual, Ethan turned and gave him a faint smile. "Big day," he said softly. Ryan nodded, avoiding eye contact. "Yeah, man. You ready?" Ethan held his gaze. "More than you can imagine." Ryan swallowed hard. For a brief second, Ethan saw fear flash across his face, but Ryan quickly masked it. Ethan turned away. "See you at the altar." As Ryan left, Ethan's phone buzzed. A message from his lawyer, evidence compiled, recording secured, all set for your instruction. Ethan smirked faintly. Perfect. Hours later, music filled the hall. Guests whispered as Vanessa walked down the aisle in her sparkling gown, looking every bit the innocent bride. Cameras flashed. The press streamed live coverage. Ethan stood waiting, tall, calm, unreadable. When she reached him, she smiled nervously. "You look amazing," she whispered. "So do you," he replied, voice steady but cold. The ceremony began. The priest spoke about love, trust, and forever. Ethan's grip tightened slightly, every word cutting like glass. When it was time for the vows, Vanessa spoke first, emotional, rehearsed, flawless. The crowd sighed. Then the priest turned to Ethan. He stared at her for a long moment, silence filling the hall. Then, softly, he said, "Before I make my vows, I have something to share." The crowd stirred. Vanessa blinked, confused. "Ethan, what are you?" He pulled out his phone, tapped a button, and placed it on the microphone stand. From the speakers, her own voice echoed, laughing, scheming, confessing everything. Gasps filled the hall. Vanessa froze, her face draining of colour. Ryan stood near the groomsmen, eyes wide, realising too late that it was over. The whispers turned into chaos. Cameras clicked. Guests stood. Vanessa stammered. "Ethan, I can explain." He looked at her, expression unreadable. "No need." The recording ended with Ryan's voice. "He'll never see it coming." Ethan stepped back, letting the silence stretch until it became deafening. Ethan froze in the dark hallway, his chest tight as he listened to the muffled voices inside the bridal suite. His name rolled off Vanessa's tongue in a tone that made his blood run cold. "I told you," she said, her voice low but sharp. "Once the ceremony's over, I'll get access to everything. He's signing the prenup cancellation today. Then we can transfer what we need before he even realises it." Ethan's heart pounded. His fiancée, his Vanessa, wasn't talking to her maid of honour. She was talking to Ryan, his best man, his best friend. Ryan's laugh cut through the air. "You're a genius, babe. Just make sure you keep the act together until after the honeymoon. We can't risk him finding out before the money hits." Ethan staggered backward, every breath feeling like fire. He wanted to burst in, scream, demand answers. But something stopped him. A quiet, chilling realisation he'd been played. Every late-night text she'd hidden, every lie she'd brushed off. It all made sense now. He straightened, his jaw tight. If this was how Vanessa wanted to play, then she'd chosen the wrong man to betray. He slipped out before they noticed, heart hammering, mind racing. Outside, the city lights blurred in his vision. The driver waiting by the car opened the door, but Ethan waved him off. He needed air. He needed a plan. "They want to use me for my money? Fine. Let's see how they like it when I turn the tables." Hours passed. The wedding guests arrived. The orchestra played softly under a canopy of white roses. Vanessa was glowing, her perfect smile hiding her sins. But Ethan, he didn't show. Not yet. Whispers started spreading through the crowd. The billionaire groom missing on his own wedding day? Cameras clicked. Reporters smelled scandal. Vanessa fidgeted, glancing toward the doors every few seconds. Ryan. dressed sharply in his suit, leaned close to her and murmured, "Relax, he'll come. He's probably just being dramatic." But for once, Ryan was wrong. Because Ethan wasn't coming back as the same man. He was coming back with revenge. At exactly 4 p.m, the grand doors opened, the orchestra fell silent, heads turned. And there he was, Ethan, walking down the aisle, not in his tuxedo, but in a crisp black suit. Cold, calculated. Vanessa's smile flickered. "Ethan!" "Thank God," he raised a hand, cutting her off. "Save it." The room fell into a stunned hush. "Before this farce continues," he said, voice steady, "I think everyone deserves to know the truth about the happy couple." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Vanessa's hands shook. "Ethan, what are you talking about?" He pulled out his phone and connected it to the speakers. Then, click, the recording began. Vanessa's voice echoed through the hall. Open quote, "Once the ceremony's over, I'll get access to everything." Close quote. Gasps filled the room. People turned. Ryan's face drained of colour. Ethan didn't blink. "That was you, Vanessa. And that's your voice, planning to rob me with my supposed best friend. Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" Vanessa stumbled backwards, shaking her head. No, that's not. I can explain." "Explain what?" Ethan shot back. "That you were using me for my money? That every word you said, every kiss, every promise was a lie?" Tears welled in her eyes. But the crowd wasn't buying it. Guests whispered. Phones recorded. Cameras flashed. "I loved you," she cried. "You're twisting this." Ethan's lips curled into a bitter smile. "If you loved me, you wouldn't have done this." He turned to Ryan. "And you, my best friend? How much did she promise you to betray me?" Ryan opened his mouth, stammering, "Ethan, man, it's not what you think." "Save it," Ethan said coldly. "Security." 2 guards appeared from the side doors. Ryan tried to back away, but they were faster. Vanessa grabbed Ethan's arm desperately. "Please, you don't understand." Ethan looked at her, eyes empty. "I understand perfectly. You wanted to destroy me, but you forgot who I am." He leaned close, his voice dropping to a whisper only she could hear. "You forgot I don't lose." He turned and walked down the aisle as the guests murmured, leaving Vanessa trembling before hundreds of witnesses. The wedding was over, but the story had only just begun. Outside, the media swarmed, cameras flashed, questions flew. "Mr. Hart, is it true your fiancé was caught scheming against you?" Ethan ignored them, stepping into his car. His driver glanced in the rearview mirror. "Sir?" "Where to?" Ethan looked out at the city skyline, the weight of it pressing on his chest. "Home," he said quietly, and then the office. Because this wasn't over. He'd lost his trust, his friend, his fiancée, but he still had power, and now he was going to use it. By the next morning, every major business outlet was buzzing. Billionaire Groom cancels wedding after betrayal. His company stock dipped briefly, but sympathy from the public turned it around within hours. Meanwhile, Vanessa's face was plastered everywhere, her reputation destroyed. Still, Ethan wasn't satisfied. Revenge wasn't about exposure, it was about balance. He discovered Vanessa had already tried transferring funds through Ryan's firm. It failed, but it gave him an idea. He called his assistant. Sell off every joint investment under her name, liquidate the rest, then send her a letter, nicely worded, terminating her apartment lease. "Understood, sir." But Vanessa wasn't going quietly. That afternoon, she appeared at his office. Security tried to stop her, but Ethan waved them off. "Let her in." She stormed through the door, eyes red but fierce. "You humiliated me in front of everyone." Ethan didn't look up from his desk. "You humiliated yourself." She slammed her hands on the table. "I loved you, damn it! Yes, I made a mistake, but I was scared. You kept everything locked behind contracts and NDAs. I thought you didn't trust me." He finally looked up. "I didn't trust you because I had reasons not to. You just proved me right." Her voice broke. "Ethan, please, I can't go back to that life. I don't have anything left." He leaned back, silent for a moment, then said quietly, "You should have thought about that before you tried to steal mine." She flinched. Tears welled up, but he didn't look away. "Security," he said softly. They escorted her out. Ethan sat back, exhaling slowly. The pain still burned, but there was also a strange emptiness, a hollow victory. He'd won. But why didn't it feel like it? He stared at the photo on his desk, his late father, the man who built their empire from scratch. "You always told me, Dad?" "Don't let emotion cloud your judgment," he muttered. "Guess I finally learned." Yet even as he said it, a part of him wondered. Had he lost more than he'd gained? Weeks passed. Ethan buried himself in work, but even the constant meetings and late nights couldn't silence the echo of Vanessa's voice in his head. Every morning he'd wake up to the same silence that used to be filled with her laughter. Every night he told himself he didn't miss her, but he did. Not her lies, not her betrayal, but the version of her he thought was real. He stared out of his penthouse window one evening, the city glowing beneath him, when his assistant buzzed in. "Sir, there's someone here to see you. She says it's urgent." "Who is it?" "She wouldn't say, but she insists it's about Vanessa." Ethan's brows furrowed. "Send her in." The door opened, and a woman stepped in. Not Vanessa, someone else. Mid-30s, confident, holding a small folder. "Mr. Cole," she said, extending a hand. "My name is Dr. Amelia Grant. I'm a therapist, Vanessa's therapist." Ethan's expression didn't change. "She sent you?" "She doesn't know I'm here," Amelia said softly. "But I thought you should know the truth before it's too late." He crossed his arms. "The truth?" Amelia sighed. "Vanessa wasn't lying about being scared. She came from nothing, Ethan. Poverty, survival. Her entire life was about pretending to be enough for people who looked down on her. When she met you, she saw someone who finally gave her hope, and that terrified her. She didn't plan to betray you at first, but someone pushed her." Ethan frowned. "Someone?" Amelia slid a photo across the desk. It was Ryan, shaking hands with a rival CEO, the same CEO who'd tried to buy Ethan's company 6 months earlier. "Ryan was paid," Amelia said. "He seduced Vanessa, fed her lies, convinced her to go along with the plan. By the time she realized what she was doing, it was too late. She thought she could back out, but Ryan threatened her. She recorded that conversation to protect herself, not to trap you." Ethan stared at the photo, his jaw tightening, his pulse quickened. "You're saying this was all his setup?" Amelia nodded. "Vanessa made a terrible choice, but she wasn't the mastermind." Silence filled the room. Ethan's mind spun. He'd destroyed her reputation, publicly humiliated her, all while the real traitor walked free. He leaned back, rubbing his temples. "Where is she now?" "She's staying with her sister in Atlanta," Amelia said quietly. "She hasn't eaten properly in days. She still talks about you, you know, even after everything." Ethan exhaled, the weight of guilt pressing down on him. "Thank you for telling me," he murmured. That night, Ethan didn't sleep. He couldn't. The betrayal, the revenge, the heartbreak, it all felt different now. He'd won the battle, but maybe not the war. The next morning, he made a call. "Find Ryan," he told his head of security. "I want him brought in, quietly." By noon, Ryan sat across from him in the office, looking nervous. "Oh, Ethan, look, I know things got out of hand." "Cut the act," Ethan interrupted. "I know about the payoff. You were working with Marcus Raines, weren't you?" Ryan's face went pale. "Well, no, that's not." Ethan threw the photo on the table. Ryan's expression said everything. "You destroyed her for money," Ethan said quietly. "You used her." Ryan swallowed hard. "I didn't think you'd—" Ethan stood, voice low, but dangerous. "You didn't think I'd find out. That's your problem. You underestimate people." He leaned forward. "You've got one chance to make this right. You're going to tell Marcus that the deal's off, and you're going to hand over every document you stole from my company, or I'll make sure you and your new partner never work again." Ryan opened his mouth to protest, but one look at Ethan's eyes silenced him. "I'll do it," he said finally. "Good," Ethan replied coldly. "Because if you don't, you'll wish you had." Ryan left without another word, but Ethan didn't feel victory this time. He just felt tired. The next day he booked a flight. Atlanta. When Vanessa opened the door, she looked like a shadow of herself, eyes swollen, face pale, hair undone. For a second, neither of them spoke. "Ethan," she whispered, "can I come in?" She hesitated, then stepped aside. The apartment was small, modest, a far cry from the luxury she once lived in. Ethan sat down, searching her face. "Why didn't you tell me the truth?" Her voice trembled. "Would you have believed me?" He didn't answer. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said softly. "Ryan made me believe I had no choice. He said if I told you, he'd ruin both of us. And after everything we'd been through, I thought you'd rather hate me than see me as weak." Ethan exhaled. "You should have trusted me." She looked away, tears falling. "I know." Silence hung heavy between them. Finally he said, "I made mistakes too. I should have listened before I reacted. I let anger win." Vanessa laughed bitterly. "You didn't just get angry, Ethan. You destroyed me." He looked at her, and for the first time in weeks, his eyes softened. I know, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to fix that. She shook her head, her voice breaking. You can't fix what's already broken, he stood. Maybe not, but I can try. He placed an envelope on the table. That's a new start, a place to live, and enough to rebuild. No strings attached. Vanessa stared at it, then at him. Why are you doing this? Because despite everything, he said quietly, I still remember the woman who made me believe love was real. I don't want revenge anymore, Vanessa. I just want peace. She wiped her tears, voice trembling. And if I can't forgive you, he smiled faintly, then I'll understand. Some wounds aren't meant to heal. He turned and walked toward the door. Ethan, she called softly. He stopped, glancing back. I did love you, she said, even when I was wrong, even when I was scared. He nodded, I know. And then he left. Weeks later, tabloids reported that Ethan Cole had stepped down as CEO temporarily to focus on charity work, a scholarship foundation for women from disadvantaged backgrounds. His first anonymous beneficiary? Vanessa Reed. Life moved on. The world forgot the scandal. But Ethan never did. Sometimes he'd still stand by his office window, watching the city lights flicker below, wondering if she ever thought of him too. Maybe in another life, things would have been different. But in this one, all he could do was learn and live. Love can make us blind, betrayal can make us cold, but forgiveness makes us human. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Tell us, what would you have done if you were Ethan? Because sometimes the most powerful revenge is simply walking away.